Hello, I am Chelsea.
My name's Al.
And this is Biblical Baggage from Your Dogma. Biblical Baggage is a bi-weekly, semi-weekly, whichever one means every other week or something, podcast where we unpack some of the most entertaining stories from the Old Testament.
We're going to take a journey through the Old Testament together, and it's going to be fun.
Come along! This is our first episode, so if you could stick around through some of the bumps and the kinks in our little show, we promise that we're going to get better as time goes on. This episode is called
The Tower of Babel.
The Tower of Babel, or as we like to call it, Tower Envy.
It's definitely Tower Envy. First case I've ever seen recorded.
First case, and probably last case? That's probably not true.
Not the last case.
Not the last case.
Definitely the first case I've ever seen. If you would like to join us, this is Genesis 11, verse 1 through 9.
We are past the flood. I know most of you remember the flood, hopefully. I call it God's great do-over.
And he really promises not to do it again.
Yeah, and he hasn't so far, has he?
He really hasn't. We have not seen a world flood since then.
That's true. We've seen floods, but not one that big.
Not that size. We are off the ark at this point, if you're wondering where we are in Genesis.
Unicorns have been demolished.
They did not make it in time.
They missed the boat,
along
as
with
they say.
all of the dinosaurs.
Oh.
Unfortunately.
Way to really, I didn't think this was going to be a sad story.
We didn't have room for the dinosaurs.
You know what? My niece told me the other day that she thinks the dinosaurs got hit by a giant rock, and that's why they're all dead.
Well, your niece needs to be educated, because even if it wasn't a giant rock, there's not a rock large enough to hit all of them. It would have been a rock, and then, winter.
That's true.
I think. Here's what I learned about dinosaurs in 4th grade, is that they coexisted with man. We found footprints of man and the footprints of dinosaurs, people.
And if there's one set of footprints, that means that Jesus was carrying it. Okay, let's reel it in.
Keep in mind, this is after Noah and his sons, and they've gone and at least made sure that humanity has survived after this point.
And by that, they procreated.
Exactly.
They did a lot of procreation.
We're trying to restart civilization. You have Noah and all his sons and a few of their descendants.
Okay. It says that they came upon a valley in the land of Shinar, and they settled there. They started building a tower. They learned how to make bricks and started building a tower. And basically,
a lot of things to learn after the flood.
Yeah. So they had. Actually, that's a good point. It's kind of one of those things where all of this stuff if humanity started over, they probably had to relearn how to build towers. So this was a lot of work for them.
Imagine your civilization got marked out by a flood. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to make a home base.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're kind of trying to make...
this is home base. They found a great fertile valley, and they're like, we're going to make sure we have a center.
They're going to build a city. They wanted to build a really tall tower, and...
Well, according to Genesis, they wanted to make sure that they stayed together. They had one common language, at least at this time.
Mm-hmm. One language, one people.
One language, one people.
So that...
According to verse 4, come let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so we may make our name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole earth.
That group of people said, let's make a name for ourselves, which I don't know why they would have to if it was just them.
They want to make a name for themselves, and they want to be great.
For who, though? Anyway, so... If they didn't make a name for themselves, they'd be scattered all over the world. So they made a really tall tower at the city. And then...
You see, Chelsea, the problem with this is that after the flood happened, God wanted people to scatter themselves all throughout the earth. So the moment he saw this tower going up, he's like, no, that can't happen.
And so when he sees it, it's like, if people with one language, if this is how they're starting to act, then... If they keep acting this way, unified, then nothing they want to do is out of reach. And that's a red flag to me, first of all.
Well, here's the other thing, too. If we're going to put this in Star Trek terms, the people...
Okay, when did we jump to Star Trek terms? Was that a goal?
Chelsea, after the flood, God gave some prime directives to the people. And one of the prime directives was that you will spread and be numerous throughout the earth. And so when he saw them building this tower and making a city to collect, he's like, oh my gosh, they are disobeying my prime directive of spreading throughout the earth.
Okay, I guess I can see it from that point of view. Because, at first when I just read it through, I didn't even think of that. I guess I could kind of see that.
The tricky thing with the Bible is that a lot of this stuff comes in context with verses and even chapters before. And it's tricky to see where they're going because they get really confused talking about, this son of this son of that son.
So God decides that he doesn't like what they're doing, that they're building the city all together and having, one language and working together so well that they're building this super freaking tall tower. So then what happens, Al?
He confuses their languages.
Mm-hmm. So imagine waking up one day and you're working on this freaking big tower, and then I go up to Al and I'm like, hey Al, do we need to build more brick and mortar? And then she says back to me in a completely different language, she says, what did you just say? I can't understand you. And then I look at her and I'm like, what? Well...
And then we both go, what?
And now we can't figure out how to finish the tower. So the tower goes unfinished.
We scatter throughout the earth, as was God's.
And apologize for the train. This is our first podcast. We haven't figured out acoustics. Woohoo!
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah, and then, so it was called Babel.
The Tower of Babel.
And the city was called Babel because God confused
He
speech on the earth.
languages.
Yeah. So, and he scattered everybody all over the earth. So, now I don't want to interrupt you, Al, but did you have something to say about this, or were...
Well, like I said, we got the basics of it down already.
Okay.
From what we see, flood, not very many people.
Mm-hmm.
People try to make an epicenter, tower, you make one great work. If we do this, there's something we can't do.
Mm-hmm.
But God's like, oh no, we can't have people doing that. If they can make a tower and stick together, who knows what they can do. Okay. And I need them to spread throughout the earth, so best confuse their languages, so they scatter.
So my first comment is that if you hop real quick to Genesis 10:32, the verse right before 11 starts.
Oh boy.
It says, these nations branched out all over the earth after the flood.
Right?
Weren't they already scattered? Anyway.
That's what we thought.
So it was scattered, and now they're not scattered, so I think there might be a little confusion about narrative, or these were two different stories that were happening at the same... I don't know. Anyway.
This happens a lot.
Yeah, it does.
This happens a lot.
I've noticed that. So they're trying to build this tall tower, and if their true goal was to reach the heavens, then why did they build it in a plain or a valley that was... I'm assuming the valley was lower. They could have built it on
That's
a mountain.
a little bit confusing. There's plenty of mountains in the area they were in.
Or maybe mountains didn't exist back then.
You're right. Maybe we hadn't invented mountains yet. Wow, I didn't even think about that.
No, mountains did exist back then.
There were only valleys.
Okay. There can't only be valleys, and then there have to be mountains too.
God had not made mountains yet. Those don't happen until the 10 Commandments.
There's no such thing as a valley without mountains around it, right? Or do I not know what a valley is?
Dare you dispute the word of God?
Okay. Okay. My second thing is... I know that you're saying here, God wanted us to go spread whatever, but the thing that he's like, if they can do this, what can't they do? Is he worried that we are going to become more powerful than him? Is he worried about us getting to heaven first? What is that about?
This is an issue I've been struggling with since kindergarten, and it's like, what does the Old Testament God really want from us?
Yeah. And we'll see that time and time again. This is just the first time. It's like, what does he want and what is he afraid of?
What does he want? We don't know. It's kind of scary.
And I was kind of, earlier today we were talking, and I kind of called it, what is it, the space race? Is that what it was?
It's kind of a space race.
Was he trying to compete with us to get to heaven first?
We have no idea.
That doesn't make sense, because he's God.
He kind of got scared that we were building a tower that far.
Yeah.
That tall, that high.
But how high could have that been? That wasn't that high.
I don't think it was.
If we look back at this, there are a few,
Go back to the historical record.
Historical records, okay. Yes, the Tower of Babel probably existed because there was a tower in every town at that time. It was called a ziggurat. Ziggurat or ziggurat?
You are not going to get much help from me when it comes to pronouncing words. I still say console.
Console or
council.
Oh, okay.
Ha!
if we're gonna talk in Star Trek terms.
I'm sorry.
So a ziggurat was basically a platform of stairs that led up to a temple on the top, and the top temple was basically where they worshipped their god. It's kind of pyramid-esque, but there's like levels to it. And those existed back then, but I guess this one just never got completed because our language got all confuddled.
It got way too tall, way too fast.
Too fast, too furious, dude. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe we weren't ready. Maybe
People got confused.
Maybe he was worried that we were going to climb too close to the sun.
And burn.
Oh no. And so the deity worshipped in the temple. It's the city's most important god. And the reigning king represented that god. And that's what the ziggurat was. So I don't know if God was upset that there was another god in the top, or...
No, that could be his problem. I mean, they don't say much about it in the Tower of Babel.
That's the thing, is like you're saying... Yeah, so I'm not really sure what the issue really was. And maybe they were trying to worship another god. Who knows?
Old Testament God. He didn't care for it.
So it's just like... And it wasn't like... They built a tower. It was like, oh, this tower in particular I don't like, so we're gonna spread them out and confuddle their language.
That's true.
Is that how you're interpreting it? If there's multiple ziggurats at the same time, and this is the one.
That it was as well. Like I said, when I was taught in first grade, the big thing with the Tower of Babel is it represents man's hubris of trying to be like God and great like God and build a tower to the sky to go join God in the sky. But that wasn't his plan for us. He didn't want us to get too close. So he confused our languages so we would follow the prime directive and spread throughout and multiply across the earth.
Mm-hmm. And I respect that interpretation. However, that is not what I'm reading.
That is the biblical interpretation.
But if I'm reading the Bible and it doesn't say I'm pissed because they're not following my prime directive, then my assumption is that he is what he said, which is, what can't they do?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the Old Testament, it's basically its own Star Trek story. It's all about the prime directive of finding the promised land and multiplying across it.
Have they even mentioned the promised land? Anyway, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of confusion here, but I do think we made a lot of headway on this one at least.
Say, that's probably just...
So what is your moral that you're going with here?
Don't try to be like God, or he will confuse you to all ends of the earth. Don't let your hubris tell you that you can build a tower to the stars, or you will be humbled by the God, Father Almighty.
The moral I'm getting is don't work together. Don't try to accomplish anything, and...
That will only make you stronger and a
it will
threat.
Only make it, because we are threatening people, I suppose. I don't know.
That's why we all speak different languages, so we cannot threaten God.
I feel like you're not... I know you don't know the answer, and it's kind of like a rhetorical question, but it's like, what would be the worst thing if they did complete it? Like, they weren't actually going to get to heaven. Like, this thing is only, a few stories high.
Well, the sin was trying to get to heaven and trying to be like God. Because we are man.
I don't think we're going to come to any sort of...
Oh, the hubris of man.
Stop saying hubris.
I'm sorry, it was repeated at least 10 times every day in first grade.
Anything? I'm trying to think if there's anything else for me to add here. I think that's pretty much...
Like I said, from this one, I mean, to be honest, this story is probably just an explanation for why people speak in different languages. And back in the historical terms, a lot of people built ziggurats. Mm-hmm. And as far as the cities went, they were probably trying to build taller ziggurats than everyone else. And why can't we build a taller one than the other people? God.
Oh, God.
God again.
God.
It's God.
Okay.
It's God.
I guess that's gonna be it for this one. Because I had fun.
Tower of Babel.
It is.
Well, it's good to start with Tower of Babel and Babylon. And we'll get to Babylon later.
Okay, I'll see you next time on Biblical Baggage.
Oh, God.
Take care of yourselves. Love you all.
From there, the Lord scattered them over the face of the earth. And that's where we'll pick them up next time.